the Inner Circle Mastermind for April 8th, 2020. Glad to have you guys on, and anyone listening to the replay, glad to have you guys with us. And as always, any thoughts or comments when we're not on, or if you're just watching on the replay, love to have you putting those into the Facebook group. And let's just get underway. I do know some more that are going to be on joining us, because I've had some conversations with a few people today, but I think there can be a lot that we can discuss, and so let's just get at it. Obviously, we're all facing the same thing with the coronavirus and the different things that are going on. But at the same time, I think we're all going to see some different opportunities and things like that coming forth too. So I want to talk about some of those things. If there's anything specific that anyone wants to get feedback from one another or anything like that, feel free to jump in. But just to start off, one thing I just wanted to talk about for a bit, I was actually spending some time with my daughter this afternoon, going through some training with Tony Robbins. And, you know, I thought some of the things that was talked about in that training would be a good topic to discuss a little bit. And it was talking about, I mean, we've talked about it a lot on this call before about Zig Ziglar, when he said you can get anything you want in life as long as you give other people what they want, or whatever his quote was. But Tony Robbins, he was talking about adding value and the importance of adding value. And if you want to be successful, you've got to forget about yourself and just look at how you can add more value to your ideal client, and not fall in love so much with your product or service, but fall in love with your ideal client, and continually looking for ways that you can add more and more value to them. The reason that I thought that would be a good thing to kind of start off this conversation today is because I think there are going to be a lot of people that are looking at, you know, where's my business at during all of this right now? Like Jody and I were just talking, where's my business going to be at in 4 months when some of these programs run out, if they don't continue them and stuff like that, or when bulk payments are starting to come due, those sort of things. How are you going to get your business kind of to continue on, to build, to grow, those sort of things? And how can you find ways to be adding value? And so just, I'd love to hear some thoughts or comments on that, on either how it could specifically pertain to you and your business, or just thoughts in general.
I personally, I think that the whole thing, like adding value, it's so vague. And I mean, it probably means something different to everybody, but to me, it's a little bit trite and, you know, overused. Because it obviously depends on your business, but we're all giving value just with our basic services, hopefully, or why would we be in business at all? So I'm not really sure how much more value, how to pile more value onto some of the things we do that's going to save us at this point. You know?
Right. And I think we're going to see a lot of companies that are going to have to innovate and either change their businesses, add different things in their businesses, those sort of things. Because I think you're right, is a lot of businesses are adding what they can. You know, we were having the conversation, and an example was, you know, what you're paid. You look at someone that works at McDonald's, you know, are they adding value? Yeah, they're adding value. They're serving their customers, making those meals or whatever. But then compare it to Warren Buffett, you know, and, you know, in the same amount of time, they're both
he has
working.
Value to himself.
And yeah, exactly. But or you know, a hedge fund manager or something that's making billions of dollars a year type thing. You know, if they're both working in the same amount of time, how is it that they're making such different amounts? And one is, you know, the person working at McDonald's, the value they're adding isn't a specialized value. You know, it's not, taking a lot of talent, and it's not getting a huge return for the customers. It's getting them a cheeseburger. But on the other hand, if a hedge fund manager is getting a 20-30% return for his customers, he's adding a lot more value at a lot different level. And so that, you make a good point though, is I think there are going to be businesses that they are adding as much value as they can, and through this trial, there might not be ways they can find other ways to add value with what they're doing in their existing company. I had a conversation yesterday with some of my staff up in Lethbridge with my stone company, and I told them that's one thing I want them to be looking at is, through this, what are the opportunities going to be that we can do as a company that we're not doing right now? Because it's really hard to really expand on what we're doing, just like you're saying, Heidi. But I think there will be opportunities that we can find that might be completely different than what we're doing right now, and we've just got to kind of figure those things out.
I thought it was interesting. I was watching the news the other morning, and there was a company, it's like a landscaping company, and he had organized a drive-through food pickup thing in the neighborhood where apparently, and I wouldn't say most of his customers are, but just that service area near him, where people were in need. And so he's on the news. He took the buckets that you would normally, I guess, put your like tools you always see in like landscapers and contractors have those big plastic buckets, and he filled them with a box of toilet paper. I mean, a box of tissue, a roll of toilet paper, a roll of paper towels, just all the stuff that's really hard for people to get right then. And he was out, he said, and he literally said on the news, he said, I took my normal advertising dollars and poured it into this. But he's still getting amazing advertising, and probably better than any other advertising he could have ever done. But he was out there, and people were driving through and they're handing them the buckets, and people were very grateful. And he got probably a good 10 minutes on the news. I don't know if any of you in Phoenix saw that, but I said, that's brilliant, because it is adding value. Yeah. And it is advertising, and it's I mean, he covered it all, and did a very good job doing it.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure if that's something that your stone company can do.
Yeah.
But so if there's something similar, I was going, God, and just to be, and I already have like the workers, to have the people that work for you, volunteering and out there doing it.
Right. And one thing I've noticed, I think Liz is the only one on here that's from Utah, but anyone that has been through Utah enough that knows who J-Dogs are, they started at BYU as a business plan competition, setting up a hut, making gourmet hot dogs, and now they've got multiple restaurants there and stuff. But it's not something that, I mean, I know they catered to events and stuff, because I've had them cater to events I've been at, but they didn't have a delivery or anything like that. But now they are doing pop-up shops and stuff like that, because I didn't know it, but I'm on their email list, and so I'm getting emails saying where their next pop-up shop is, and you pre-order stuff like that. And so there's a lot of innovation and people trying to figure out how they can still get business, add value in another way. So I think we are going to see a lot of that.
I was just thinking too that I think people are looking for leaders and leadership. And so maybe you don't have a company that can add necessarily more value, but maybe you can start sharing the skills that you already have, that you're good at. Like, obviously you're good at something, otherwise you wouldn't be in business. And so I think that people are just desperately looking for examples, and they're looking for leadership, and just kind of like just sharing what's been working for you, and just kind of living that law of abundance, that even though things may seem scarce right now out there, that I think when we feel like that we're in this scarcity mindset, that there's not enough to go around, so you kind of want to hoard everything, and I think that if you just A, have an abundance mindset, and B, be a leader that people are looking for, that's how you can add value to everybody out there during a time of crisis.
What would
That's
an example of that be? I'm just kind of, just because, like I said, leadership, adding value, they're great terms, but what would that look like to you? What do you think that would look like?
For me personally, so I have a large following of moms, right? And so I've got a lot of kids and I have a lot of moms, and just continually posting on social media. Like, it doesn't even have to be about my product or about what I'm doing necessarily. It's just like finding out, asking questions, talking, like going in and talking, like DMing people and connecting with people. And if you're out there and putting yourself out there and putting yourself in a position where people can still connect to you, even though we're all quarantined, that's going to go a long way. Then it's not going to feel like a long lost cousin that just all of a sudden popped up and wants something at the end of this. It's, oh, Elizabeth's out there, she's still posting on social media, that means that I can too. Or she's starting this business right now in a time of quarantine. I'm still planning to launch, our courses that Tia and I are working on, that Jeff's helping us with and everything. Like, we're still on track to launch in May. We're still pushing forward. And I have no shame and no problem going out there and doing lives on Instagram and on social media saying like, hey, look we're starting this course soon, we're doing this. So when people see you just doing things, whatever that may look like, I think that goes a long ways, and they'll look to you to see what you are actually doing.
Yeah, great point, Liz. And then, I would add to that, to answer your question, Heidi, I think let's break down what a leader is, what leadership is. A leader is someone that someone else follows for whatever reason. In its most basic form whatsoever, right? So I think Liz made a lot of great points there. I would say carving your niche, whatever it is, and being hyper-focused and hyper-specialized right now is going to be of extreme importance for all of us on this call, especially because the additional time for people to invest in personal development and get back to core roots and principles and foundations right now is good, but it's going to be a double-edged sword because there is going to be a lot more content out there. We talked about this a little bit last week about how with more content comes more competition. With more competition, there's a need for more hyper-specialization. So whatever it is that is your gift that is unique to you, not just, I would even encourage you, Liz, to take it a level further. You say you connect with moms. What type of moms? How old are they? What are they interested in? I would even take it a level further than that. Sorry to, I know I always
I love this. No, I love this. And actually, I brought up moms because I do Mom Life Today. But the course that I'm starting with Tia, we're actually just so excited because we have plans to target high school athletes, something that both of us, Tia is going into college and she's a basketball player and she's going to be playing basketball at Snow College. So she's like right in the thick of it. But I spent every moment since I can remember playing basketball all through high school and like elementary, junior high, then high school. And I feel like I still connect with that mindset a lot. And so I think you're 100% right, Justin, is just really like take time to even narrow it down more than just moms in general or just whatever, because you're right, there's an overabundance of content out there right now, and it is very important to like really narrow it down for sure. I agree with that.
That's actually a conversation. Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Well, I guess my last pointer to finish this point out is, and not only think of it from your perspective, I like to play a little game sometimes where I'll try to put myself in my client's shoes and think about it from their vantage point, from their lens. So like one of the clients that we're working with right now, they're a nonprofit, they are a nonprofit, and they're about to launch a massive campaign. They're two pastors that are trying to basically take a component of their business to monetize it because they've historically operated in the nonprofit function for like the last 10 years. So we're helping them create monetization streams out of this. And as we came to find out, and through discussion and consultative analysis, it's like their target niche, because of their background, expertise, and experience, is not just couples. It's actually athlete or current or former athlete, professional athlete couples, because the husband is actually the chaplain for the LA Chargers. So that's a natural conduit to that community. They have access to those people. So, you know, that's all I'm saying is, like, you have to be able to get super niche where you know where they shop, you know what they read, like everything. And the nicher, the richer, as they say.
Exactly. And that's actually a conversation I had with Tia this afternoon, and said next week when we sit down, Liz, the conversation I wanted to have with you and her was figuring out your avatar for well, all of the things you're looking at doing right now, because and it was good because she had no idea what I was talking about. So I had the opportunity to kind of explain that, and saying that, okay, in fact, I don't know who it was I was listening to this week, but the example that I'll use was, I think it was a podcast I heard it on, and they were talking about a sales guy going in, and he's pitching to these two executives, and I think the girl's name was Alexis, but they kept saying, no, that wouldn't work for Alexis, she wouldn't like that, and had a lot of these objections from what Alexis would think. And finally he's like, who is this Alexis? Is she, I mean, she's obviously the decision maker, why isn't she in this meeting with us? And they said, oh, actually, that's our ideal customer. We've just named her, and everything we do for our company, we run it through her. Is that something that she would want to buy, or something she would want to do, or something like that? And so I think exactly like Justin's saying, is the more you can narrow that down, whether it's, you know, girl athletes from 22 to 25, or narrowing it down as you, depending on what you're doing, it's girl basketball players 24, 25 years old. You know, the more you can narrow it down, the more specific you can get in your marketing stuff. And you're going to have, I mean, with your mom life, that's going to be different than what you're focusing on with the other stuff with Tia too. But I think with all our businesses, the more we can niche down, the easier it'll be to find some of those successes.
For me, dealing with the magazine and podcast, it's gotten really flooded with everybody want to do a live, everybody want to do a video now. So it's so flooded now that it's hard to do a video and really make it stand out unless you really have something that's going to really get their attention and just have some type of impact on it. But the way I stay connected and continue to move around is through social media, by inboxing or DMing certain people. And then I get the connection and get the phone number, and we'll have a phone call or email, get connected some sort of way in that sense. Or they are excited to get in touch because either they want to be on the podcast or in the magazine. And for a couple of people I've reached out to, other things have developed because of that simple connection. So it's depending on what product or services you're doing, is finding that direction or what you have that, okay, let me adjust. What else can I do? Let me see what's different. And even like now, the advertising has gone down a lot, and I get it. And of course, I would love for it to go back up, but at this moment, it is what it is. But continuing to reach out to people, providing the content, putting the magazine out, I'm getting good feedback, you know, from the contributors in the magazine. So, you know, it's just a matter of time once we go through this virus and see what happens after that.
Thanks, Melissa. Any other thoughts on that? Or if not, does anyone have any other topics or issues they would like to bring to the group?
I think kind of going back to the idea, coming up with an ideal customer, it's That's always been a super big challenge for me. We've had our immersion services company for 20 years, and we've had everything from plastic surgeons to mom and pop uh, uh, things. We've had veterinarians. I have attorneys. I've got dentists. We've never really had a lot of restaurants or retail, but we've a few of those, but it's not our specialty. And so and it usually comes to, historically came to us through agents and banks and stuff like that. So for us, like we were just in the process of actually partnering with an organization that does HIPAA compliance to put together a package to talk to doctors, plastic surgeons, whatever, about how important, obviously, even the way they do their credit card processing is extremely important in HIPAA compliance, as far as not being able to breach their system and get to their patients' data in any way. So we're still packaging that and formulating that and kind of going like this. Oh, then trying to figure out how to properly, how to reach out to doctors and get that message across. And I've never been the marketing person. I'm the number cruncher, but unfortunately in life I've been forced into marketing, and it's hard for me because my brain doesn't work that way. So and I love talking to creative people and people that can do these things, because it's a skill I lack terribly. And so I don't know if anybody has any suggestions, but that's where I'm at.
The nice thing about that is it's the same conversation I had with Tia, is you've got your target customers. That doesn't mean you're not going to have other people come in and become customers. And who knows, maybe once they're within your realm, they end up changing and they end up fitting that target customer. But when you're starting to put some focus on, say, doctors right now, the more experience you have dealing with them and the more transacting customers you get to understand them more, and you become the expert. You become the go-to, and you'll know things that, just like stuff you don't know a lot about a doctor's practice right now, you'll know the inside out of that. And so you can become the expert in that industry. And that's where I think the niche is really something you can take an advantage of.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that somebody suggested is kind of reaching out to some of them, especially now because they have time on their hands, because not a lot of people are getting elective surgery right now, is to and kind of say, hey, what? But to me, this sounds so hokey. But hey, I'm thinking about writing a book about what's important to doctors or whatever, and I'd love to get your input, and and I'm like, yeah, but what if you never write the book? And they say, oh, most people are just happy to help, and then if you just never get around to writing the book, then but it makes them feel important and makes them feel. And I was like, oh, that just seems so disingenuous to me.
It's also less intrusive.
Right, but it's.
But yeah, I understand where you're coming. But yeah.
You have to be okay and comfortable with the fact that not everyone's going to like what you have to offer or how you stylistically approach things. And sometimes, by the way, that's the highest form of compliment and flattery. So
that's right.
Or said differently, you can rest assured you're doing something right if you're making people happy, but also pissing some people off.
Well, right now I'm kind of doing neither. It's kind of like, you're kind of stuck in the middle of all those things, It's like I'm not a McDonald's worker and I'm not a Warren Buffett, and I'm always kind of like somewhere in the middle.
I think we kind of talked a little bit about that last week. That's what I call no man or woman's land or danger zone, right? Mm-hmm. Like being bold, you have to be bold enough to take a stand and plant your flag in the ground, if you will, like when the West was born, right? They used to plant their flag in the ground as to their property. You have to plant your business flag in the ground and be bold and brave about it, because for the most part, people might like you. If you're not daring, they'll think you're sweet and whatnot, but you're not going to be able to create a true movement or a tribe or community out of it. generally speaking, because people, there's more in it for the bold, right? And I'm not saying be bold about everything, but what I've found in my personal journey is, because I actually, Heidi, similarly, when I started my journey as an entrepreneur, I was exactly the same way. And it took me a while to sort of come out of my shell, and I'm not over the top about it now, but I know the couple of things that I know, and I'm very poignant, and I know those are my things to sort of share about, right? And I would encourage you to do the same thing. What that's yours. Like, pat yourself on the back, that's yours, and go for it, right? Because that's what, passion is what people are attracted to. It's the energy. It's not the content, to be honest. I know no one wants to hear that, but that's the truth. The content is what makes it enriching, but the passion is what draws people in.
That's well said, Justin. I agree.
Thank you.
Anything else on that, Heidi?
What?
Hi, also, sorry, I was just thinking about it. And like, for me, for a long time, I didn't know exactly what the avatar who the avatar even was. And so I just started joining communities online, like I knew that I wanted to target moms at first, right? But I'm like, well, what type of mom? There's so many different types of moms out there, right? And so I just started being social on social media. And the more social and the more you put yourself out there, I know it's kind of tacky, but that's the whole point. If you want to reach people, and if you want to find that, like, your ideal customer, and you want to find that avatar, but you're struggling on, okay, who is it? Just start joining and being sociable and moving around the different groups, and join this group for a little while. And you're like, actually, there's nobody here I'm really connecting with it and really feeling. Go to the next one, And so there's just so many ways to find out, because there's just so many different types of people out there. And then eventually it will click, and you're like, oh, that's who it is. And then you'll already have, like, if you put yourself into these different communities, then it's not going to be so hard to find more people like that. Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe
Kind of like trial and error. If you don't try it, you'll never know. And like you're saying, Liz, it's like jump in the different groups, get on the different pages. Sometimes I'll sit maybe 30 minutes and I just scroll through. I'm not commenting or doing anything. I just scroll through the page to see who's doing what. And if I see somebody seem interesting, I click on them, look at their page, look at their profile, see what they're posting, see who they're connected to. And sometimes it's nothing there. And then sometimes something may jump out at you. And it may even give you an idea. So say if you're stuck and you can't, quite get there, you know what you want to do, but not quite. Sometimes you'll run across stuff that'll help you get unstuck and be able to move on to the next thing. So it's trial and error. And that's the only way you're going to be able to, figure out some things, figure out, okay, is this the right group for me? Is this the right person I need to connect with? You just gonna have to go through it to figure that out.
I agree with you on that, Melissa. And actually, shout out to Jeff. I did that with Jeff actually today, because he posted I don't know if you saw his story about the books that you're reading, but if you notice it, there's a signature in the bottom right corner. And I just found that so beautifully done. It was just so, like, classy and elegant, for a story and for a post. You could probably post that too. But I loved it, and I reached out to him. I said, hey, how did you do that, right? So what you're doing in that sense, or what I was doing, you're market sensing, actually, right? So when, like Melissa was talking about, when you're staying up to date, and obviously not excessively where you're just hanging out on social media all day. That's not what I'm saying. But you got to have a couple go-tos of people that you follow because they have quality content and quality message, their delivery is good, whatever it is. And then you check in with them because more than likely they have something of value to offer you that you can borrow, because everything we do in coaching and personal development is all borrowed. Everything is borrowed. It's recycled. We just put our own spin on it, truthfully.
That's exactly what Steve Jobs used to say is, you know, everything he created in Apple was stolen from somewhere else, and he just made it good. and so yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean,
Well,
when
even
someone's
Dan
already,
Kennedy, the marketing guru, he's called swipe and
yeah,
deploy, right?
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And I mean, it's the whole idea of this mastermind group. If someone's already figured something out, don't go through the pain of and trials and errors of figuring it out yourself. Get them to tell you how they did it. And you
Yeah,
know,
don't
the
be
reason
ashamed.
sorry,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Melissa.
Well, I was gonna say, don't be ashamed of asking, and just every day take you like 20, 30 minutes and just, you know, pick a platform, go through it and figure it out and reach out to those people. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't, but what the heck? Just ask them, you know, just ask. You never know.
Well, you're
like the
right. I
saying.
mean, I was actually just looking down the list here, and every one of you on this call, except for Jody, I met through social media. so yeah, I mean, there's power in that.
There.
Well, we only have a little bit of time left, but is there anything else anyone wants to add, or any other quick topics that we can touch on in a few minutes here?
Quick topics. um,
I'll give it, just going back to what Justin had asked me today. And I'll tell you how I found out how to do that, because I used to, with my company Kodiak Mountain Stone, we obviously do a lot of marketing online and different stuff like that. And I never watermarked anything. You know, I just wanted it to be a nice picture and whatnot. But then one day, I got some marketing material online sent to me from a company in China that was trying to sell me stuff. And every single picture that they had on their website, in their magazines and everything, I took. Every single picture they had was one of my pictures. And so yeah, from that day forward, I watermarked everything.
so
And the
where
other
did,
reason,
oh,
the other
well, so
reason I
where was the
did,
post that he was talking about that he saw, where he saw the
it's
watermark?
on Instagram.
Oh,
It's on
then I'll never see
Instagram.
it. Okay.
Yeah. But the other way I do it is I do, especially on Instagram, I often have people share my stuff, and most of the time people say where it came from and stuff, and sometimes they'll cut that all off and claim it as their own or whatever. And you know, having that on there just kind of gives me my mark on it in case someone sees it and see what happens. But yeah, anyways, hopefully that was good for you guys. If there's any other thoughts, questions, love to have you included on the Facebook page or emails or anything. And all the time, when I send the emails out for this, that links back to me. So if you ever have questions or thoughts or anything, you can just reply to that email that comes out with the link to the call and everything. It comes to me. But thank you, and hopefully everyone has a great week and not very many challenges surrounded with this coronavirus, and everyone can keep marching forward. So thanks for being on tonight, guys.